Hello, my name is Matthew, and I just read The Adventure of Charles Augustus Milverton by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And this is a part of my read along series and book club with Steve Donahue. We're reading murder mysteries in the month of March, and we're reading all of the Sherlock Holmes short stories. And Charles Augustus Milverton, we're told throughout the story, is one of the most villainous, despicable, high level criminal blackmailers in London or in England, and considered by those that know to be one of the most dangerous men in England or Europe. And so he's someone that gets letters that are scandalous, that just have sensitive information that could ruin empires and ruin family lineages and ruin people's marriages. And he's been doing it for so long that he just has a catalog that are of information that can be sent out at any moment, and he's calculating. So he can hold on to things to just the most opportune moments. And the first time his name comes up, Charles Augustus Milverton, we get this monologue from Sherlock building him up, one of the most dangerous men in London. And Moriarty's name doesn't even come up. So Moriarty is supposed to be this criminal mastermind, one of the most dangerous men in London. He's pulling all the strings and all the crimes. He had his story, which is one of the most famous. At least his character is one of the most famous characters. He's supposed to be Sherlock's arch nemesis, the ultimate villain, and now that we have a new most villainous, most dangerous men in London, his name isn't even mentioned as a use of comparison. I thought that was interesting, and we're also told that this Milverton character is extremely cunning and intelligent and calculating. Has been doing this for a very long time. No one will touch him. Things like that. And he's actually coming to Baker Street to talk to Sherlock. Sherlock is working on a case where a young girl is to be married later in the month or next month. Milverton has come across these letters that would cancel the wedding, ruin the families. The girl's life would be in ruins, and Sherlock and this girl have gone over their options and decided to figure out what's the bribe. How much does it cost to suppress these letters? And Watson's there, Sherlock's there. Milverton comes in, a large, bulky, round, gray-eyed man. And we get this great interaction between Sherlock and Milverton in a way that I feel like we really did not with Sherlock and Moriarty. Their interaction of two intellectual giants having a battle of wits, I felt was so poorly executed and disappointing. This one is quite good. This Milverton character feels much more realistically fleshed out and seems to be more dangerous and more clever than Moriarty, at least on the page. At some point, Sherlock yells to the negotiation is not going well. He's asking for £7,000, a figure that the young girl, through the most extreme sacrifices, could not produce. And Sherlock's negotiations are not getting anywhere. He's firm on his price. Sherlock, you know how this goes. It was a great scene, but it ends with Sherlock saying to Watson, "Block the door," and they're gonna attack him because maybe he has the letters on him. He pulls out a gun and goes, "I'm well armed. Of course, I don't have the letters on me. You should know I don't have the letters on me. Of course, you're going to let me go." On and on and on, and he just strolls out. So Sherlock, Sherlock goes into a room, and he's just Sherlock's wheels are just spinning. Sherlock comes out of his room, gray haired, has a goatee, different outfit. We have Sherlock in disguise, and he leaves for a week or more than a week. Maybe he's back in the apartment, but he's really just in and out. He's always in this disguise. And he finally comes back and goes, "Watson, I'm engaged." And Watson goes, "Oh!" And he goes, "I'm engaged to Milverton's housemaid." And Watson kind of says, like, how could you? Like, you're playing with the emotional life of someone that's completely out of this playhouse that we're all in. And it in one respect, it shows Sherlock's either immorality or amorality to use a person to the advantage of his own personal gain. The other thing that I was thinking about is what Sherlock did. So he dresses up in disguise. He goes and worms his way into this housemaid's life. They start going on evening walks together, and very quickly, Sherlock is doing all of his Sherlockian things and getting a lay of the land, learning the structure and layout of the building, learning Milverton's routines and sleep schedules and all of that. But all the while, Sherlock is cooing and courting this girl. And even at the beginning of it, while it's happening, the end moment is going to be that this Sherlock, this disguised figure, from the girl's perspective, from the fiance's perspective, he's just going to disappear. And from her perspective, she would go to a person like Sherlock to get a resolution. And not only would she do it, we've had a case. We've had a short story where a young girl comes to Sherlock and says, "I was engaged." What was that? Andy. A girl comes into the Baker Street, says, "I was engaged to someone for several weeks. It was the day of the wedding. He gets into a carriage onto the way to the church or something, and we open up the carriage door. He's not in there." And it turns out that there was someone in disguise that was courting and cooing this girl at night when it's dark out and you can't see the disguise so well. And that kind of wraps up in the way it does. But it's funny that in that story, Sherlock just drags the person over the coals who perpetrated that, the person that dressed up in disguise, to just use a person as a plaything for their own personal gain. In this story, since now the table's on the other foot, Sherlock just kind of says, well, what are you going to do? Had to be done. And after all of this, he does this. He dresses up in disguise. Um, Although the plot, the Sherlockian genius idea that he has in order to bring it all together, that part is rather flat. Um, it's not clever. There's nothing ingenious or even theatrical. It's not theatrical. It doesn't have that flair and that impressive bit of surprise that so many of these short stories have. It doesn't have that, but the second half of the short story is still terrific. So, Sherlock's idea with this intellectual giant who's a blackmailer, the most dangerous man in England, says, I'm going to break into his house and take all the letters. Okay. Okay. Um, Watson at first is extremely against this, vehemently against this idea, just saying your whole career is going to be ruined. Your reputation is going to be gone. You're this great detective, and you're going to get caught. The police are going to come, and you're just going to be a burglar. Sherlock is insistent. He's gone through all the different things, every possibility. This is what he has to do. Sherlock says, well, I'm going with you. Or what Watson says, I'm going with you. And Sherlock says, no, you're not going with me. Watson says, I swear to God, if I don't go with you, my next step is directly to the police station. I'm going to tell them what you're doing, and you're going to be arrested. And Sherlock goes, okay, you can go with me. So they dress up as cat burglars. It really sounds like they have like the black cap and a black mask and the black black cat burglar outfit. They sneak across the lawn. They do all sorts of sneaky things to get on the property, and then they sneak across the lawn. Hilariously, almost like Wile E. Coyote taking out his new Acme package. Sherlock has this moment where he pulls out the most up-to-date, advanced burglary kit and goes through all the little tools that come in his super special burglary kit. And he has that thing, the glass cutter that goes in a circle that all the great cat burglars use, and he used that to cut a glass hole in the greenhouse of the something or other. They get in, and they finally get into the room that they need to be in that has the safe. All the while, they've been passing rooms. It's the middle of the night. Sherlock has been studying Milverton's sleep schedule, knows that he goes to bed at 10:30, and he's a solid, deep, sound sleeper. So that's why they're there at the middle of the night and all that. But they're passing these rooms that still have the fresh odor of cigar smoke in them. Everything's calm, everything's dark, but there's still cigar smoke in the air that feels fresh. Sherlock gets to crack the safe, and it's one of his hobbies, we're told, safe cracking. So he's all excited. He gets to crack this safe, and Watson is on guard. There's two opposite doors that he has to watch, and there's the windows over there. And if something happens, it's funny because at one point Watson even says, like, I'm still unsure of what I'm supposed to do if something happens. But very quickly, before Watson notices anything, Sherlock quickly but silently shuts the safe, the door of the safe. He shuts it closed again, and directs Watson for them to both run over behind the window curtains, which is hilarious. Just out of a silent movie where two characters or two cat burglars hide behind a shower curtain, a full body shower curtain, and Milverton comes in. They're peeking through a partition in the curtain, and it is funny that they're just behind a shower curtain, or not a shower curtain, a window curtain. But it's tense, and there were several revealing moments between the relationship of Sherlock and Watson that are quite tender and honest. There's a moment where Sherlock reaches over and just grasps Watson's hand and squeezes his hand, and it was his silent way of Sherlock telling Watson everything's okay. They're in a precarious position. Now it's just a waiting game. And it turns out that Milverton had an appointment with somebody. So it's not him. He was comfortably lounging in his chair, reading a letter and smoking a cigar. And their hope, Sherlock and Watson, their hope is that he's going to finish reading the letter, he's going to finish his cigar, walk out the door, and go to bed. Instead, it turns out that he is up at an unusual hour because he has an appointment. There's someone coming at an unusual hour. And it's a girl that finally arrives. She's 30 minutes late. And Milverton and this woman, have a conversation. She has a veil on. She's there to sell letters. That's the other part of Milverton's operation. He buys letters from servants, people that are in the surrounding spheres of all these high-powered people. He buys them at low cost, catalogs them, has them, and will wait for moments when it's the best time to use them and blackmail people. That's what he does. And the girl's there to sell these letters until she reveals her face. Milverton goes, "It's you." And we don't know who this person is. We know that it's someone that Milverton knows. And she goes, you ruined my life. And it's an unknown story that is the same story that we've been hearing about. Young people that want to get married have some letter over their heads from when they were youthful and playful. Milverton having enormous bribes offered that they couldn't pay, which also Milverton doesn't need. He's already described as a moneybags, an incredibly rich person. If he says 7,000 and someone says, all I have is 2,000, it doesn't make him any more noble or anything like that, but he could just take the 2,000. Milverton explains to Sherlock reasons why he couldn't, but he unnecessarily ruined this girl's life that we don't know. She's there to confront him. Well, she pulls out a gun and shoots him, just starts firing. She starts unloading the gun, multiple shots into his body. He falls dead. The girl, in a panic, runs away. Well, now, Sherlock and Watson are still behind that window curtain. All the lights in the house are going up. Everyone is stirring. It's a house that's full of maids and servants and valets and things like that. Sherlock runs over to the safe, opens the door, and unloads all of the papers, all the bundles, all of the sensitive documents that Milverton has been amassing. and throws him into the fire that had been roaring. I don't know if I mentioned it, but there was a fireplace and a fire this whole time. And also that there was an incriminating letter that the girl left accidentally. So Sherlock was just burning all the blackmail letters so no one gets harmed from them. But a woman still just came in and murdered somebody. And a piece of evidence that could have directed them towards her, he decided to throw in the fire as well. They have an escape. They narrowly escape. They're going over a garden wall. Watson's foot is caught by a gardener. He's able to scramble off, and they barely get away. So the next morning, Lestrade shows up, comes in, mentions Milverton is one of those names that all the police forces know about. They know his operation. They know what he does. They can't really touch him. And now he's turned up dead, shot to death. And there's two suspects. Lestrade describes one of the suspects that the gardener had an altercation with. Square-shouldered, square-jawed, hardy and stout. Sherlock, after the description, Sherlock says, "Well, that's rather vague. That could be that could describe Watson." A little bit of cat and mouse. Sherlock refuses the case. That's how it ends. I know about this guy. He got what was coming towards him. I don't want anything to do with it. Essentially, I'm glad he's dead. He deserved to die. Not a typical Sherlock Holmes short story, and not a typical idea or conclusion to the short story. The sequence of the burglary I thought was really well done. It's happening as a play-by-play, and although, of course, everything works out at the end, it didn't go the way that I had expected. And as you're reading it, you get the feeling of like something is about to go wrong. What is it? And so it was riveting and a page turner. And it's effectively surprising when we just have out of the blue this confrontation. But it's not quite over yet, because Sherlock is just stirring after this the whole series of events. He's refused to take the case, and Lestrade leaves, and Sherlock is still silent and brooding, kind of moping around for days, and then he goes, "I've got it," and Sherlock and Watson run down to now I can't remember, but like a local magazine stand or a shop that has fashionable posters on it, because the girl that shot Milverton was a very well-known, well-to-do person who had their life ruined. Sherlock and Watson behind the curtain couldn't get a good eye. And so even after all of this has happened, Sherlock is still bugged because there's still a loose end. There's still a murder and a case that he hadn't solved. And although we don't get all of the we don't get the whole rundown of how he solves it, he doesn't help Lestrade, but he still needs to know. And it ends with him letting Watson know and letting us know he figured out the mysterious woman. He figured out the identity of the mysterious woman that shot the great Charles Augustus Milverton. So, very good. Really enjoyed it. It was surprising and intense at times, and I liked it. So let me know if you've read it, the Adventure of Charles Augustus Milverton. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you would like, and take care.